Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to another anime review. Today we look at the series known as F, A Tale of Memories. Now this is season 1. Season 2 is called the F, A Tale of Melodies, and I will be reviewing that probably within the next couple weeks. I'm not going to put an exact date on it because I'm not 100% sure when I will be able to get to it, but I definitely will be reviewing it, and I will definitely tell you right now that this show, I spent $20. If you saw my anime haul video, you know that. Definitely go check that out if you want more information about the series and where I got them from. But I'll tell you this right now, this is like probably the best $20 I've spent on an anime in a while. This was a phenomenally well done show. I will say this right off the bat. I know it's kind of a spoiler. Of you probably could figure out where I'm going to review this already, but stick around. Make sure you know what I'm talking about and what the show is all about. But honestly, it's such a great show. Haven't enjoyed a show like this in a long time, and I'll explain now why. I'll tell you the story. So we have Hiro Hirono and another character named Renji Asuo. Now, it's important to know that this is two stories, essentially. They take place in the same area. So, surprisingly enough, these characters are not, hundreds of miles away, or they're actually all in the same town. But they're two different side stories. One is Hiro Hirono is a young man who is struggling to be a manga artist. He loves to do manga, but the thing is that he works under a pseudonym. He's known very well in the industry, but no one really knows at school that he's a manga artist. He misses a lot of school. He's struggling in school, and one day on Christmas Eve, he ends up running into this girl named Miyako, who ends up changing his life because, like him, she's very free spirited with a lot of things. She doesn't really go to school all the time, even though she is smart and shows that very early on. And she is known as everyone's, they want to be with this girl, but most of the guys are not able to even get close to her. And here Hiro is around, and he doesn't realize that she's that popular, and she seems to fall in love with Hiro. Now, meanwhile, that's kind of problematic for his childhood friend Kei, who really loves him. And when this happens, this creates a kind of big rift between these two. And overall, it's just going to be a very interesting love triangle between, a guy who doesn't know what he has and a guy who does know what he has at the same time. He realizes that I'm trying to think of the best words to say this without kind of spoiling, because this is one of those shows that's very, very easy to spoil. He's going to have to really delve into his own thoughts and who he wants more. And that's one of the biggest things from him is, what is he willing to sacrifice? And, overall, his story is very, very bittersweet when it comes to a lot of scenes, but you will find that this is one of the better sides of the story. I'll tell you that right now. Now, meanwhile, like I said, this is following two people. The other one is Renji Asuo, who meets a young girl named Chihiro. Now, Chihiro is a very strange girl when he first meets her, and he doesn't understand fully why she's in this abandoned train station just hanging out outside. And he wonders, well, is there a purpose for it? She starts talking to her, and he kind of finds himself kind of bewildered by every day that she seems to have to almost wonder who he is. As the course of the story will go, and this is not a spoiler, by the way, this is actually something you could read right from the back of the box if you want. I'll say to avoid reading the back of the box, because I think it's one of the kind of cooler things in understanding the full grasp of it. But you see, Chihiro suffers from a disease that makes it where she forgets every 13 hours her past memories. And I'll tell you right now, the bigger spoiler is that, I'm not going to say what it is, but it's essentially maybe a lot stronger than that issue alone. But she forgets everything, and she has to write down in a journal, her past memories, her daily, do's, that what she does and what she doesn't do. And it's going to definitely create some rifts between these two trying to, get together. You have Renji really falling in love with this girl, and she is trying to fall in love with him, but forgetting about him at days and kind of having just to rely on a diary that shows how much she feels for him and what she feels for him. And that's definitely going to be some problems down the line. Now, I'll be honest with you guys and girls. That story is probably one of the weaker ones to me. I mean, I love it in its own right. It's still a phenomenal done story, but it's one of the weaker of the two. I think Heroes is a better focused story. I think there's more to love about it. It's a little bit more realistic of sorts. But overall, I did enjoy his story more than Renji's. Renji's is like a little bit melodramatic sometimes, and I feel the kind of amnesia thing has been done before, but it's definitely not bad. You'll definitely enjoy every moment of it, don't get me wrong. Just because it's cliche at times does not take away from the fact that it's got some great characters and just overall a very good plot. I just think Renji's side is a lot more interesting, and to see that kind of love triangle between this one psycho girl that he knows now and his childhood friend is definitely something that's really intriguing. Now, one thing I love about the show, besides the story itself, is I love the characters and I love the art. I think the art and animation for this are done stellar. It really has this kind of almost Bakemonogatari styling, where you see words appear sometimes and you have images appear here and there, and very dulled at colors once in a while. You have weird screen transitions and all this other stuff. There's a lot of weird events that happen, but they're all very, very beneficial to this story overall. One of the cooler scenes is, for example, she's talking to him on a payphone. I'm not gonna say who exactly, but when she's talking to one of the characters on the payphone, you see a timer, which is how long the car timer has, and it goes down on the screen. So every second, the screen changes to the timer and goes down by one. And I think it was really a strong and powerful emotional scene because of that little timer effect. It's stuff like that that really makes it where, for example, there's also a scene where she breaks out of chains to represent, her freedom finally. There's a lot of stuff done like that in the animation department and the art department that really make the show even stronger than what is already, besides just having a good story. Overall, it's a soundtrack wise is not bad at all. I love this. I love the opening. I love the closing. I think that the tones in general are a very good setup for all the scenes that come into play. There are some really dramatic scenes, and they're really followed and accompanied by these great, powerful sounds that you listen to the music in the background and you go, wow, you get absorbed into the scene because of that music. Voice acting wise is probably where I think the only issue I have with this whole show. So I'm gonna say this right now. I don't know if I would say watch this in Japanese, but I would say that if you aren't a fan of dub, you definitely want to watch it in Japanese. I watched it in dub, honestly. I listened to some of the Japanese. The Japanese is perfectly fine. I like all the characters. But I did watch it in dub because I felt like I would get a little more out of it watching the dub personally. But it's definitely weaker sometimes because here's the issue. It's got a lot of strong character voice acting, but there are times where they kind of are a little bit, I want to say they stretch their characters' voices out a little bit sometimes. They try a little bit too hard to emphasize certain emotions, and it's really obvious. It never, don't get me wrong, it never took away from the story at times. It was more so just during the off times where there was really nothing going on, they're trying to convey a scene. You're almost like, that's a little bit too much. It was a little too melodramatic voice acting wise. But overall, it's still very solid in both English and Japanese dub. I would say focus on the Japanese dub to get a full, better experience. But I did watch it in English. You can get a fine experience that way too. So it's not like you have to turn it off or anything like that. You could watch it in English dub if you want to. Overall, endings for both stories were phenomenally well done, and the pathway to the end were just awesome. I watched every episode, and I was just glued to the screen watching these shows because, honestly, it was so great. And I love how it even transitions at one point to show you who the next characters of the story are going to be for the second season. So it's going to be focusing on these characters, and I think that's really cool. I mean, honestly, I would love to see how the other characters are faring, and I think having it where they're still gonna be in the scene, probably it's not gonna be that they're the focus anymore because their stories are wrapped up at the end of this story, but seeing that they're still in the scene or at least somewhere in the show is really cool for a second season. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Overall, if I had to rate this A through F, A plus, hands down. It's one of those shows that you will watch, you will enjoy it if you love romance stories. It might have some melodrama here and there, but it's never melodramatic that you've grown or you go, oh my god, this is horrible. It's always like one of those enthralling experiences to watch the show. Like I said, it's, I think, about $40 on Amazon if you buy it like that. I know some websites, of course, have it. You can find it, on various websites. I'm not going to say which ones, of course, but that's up to you if you really can't afford it, which is understandable. But overall, very solid show. You'll definitely want to check it out. Anyways, guys and girls, that's it for today's review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, as always, like and comment, subscribe, share the video. The whole nine. And as always, until our paths cross again in the next review, have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.